Welcome to Folder 404. Every night, a new folder opens, a secret case, a forgotten story, buried deep, never meant to be heard. Dark things live in these files, and once you listen, they remember you. So, turn off the lights, put on your headphones. You're not just watching, you're unlocking something. This is Folder 404. Let's begin. Enjoy the story. The Pale Choir. Appalachian Mountains, early 20th century. The road twisted like a serpent through the hollows, flanked by pine and hemlock so thick the sunlight barely kissed the dirt. Reverend Silas Corbin leaned forward in his wagon, reins loose in his hands, eyes squinting through the creeping mist that hugged the mountain's shoulders. It had been a long ride from Dry Creek, and the mule was beginning to wheeze. Still, he pushed on. He'd heard the stories, whispered over campfires, and passed around in hymnal margins, a place called Whitlock Hollow, tucked so deep into the range it wasn't on any proper map. The children sing in their sleep, they said, all of them, every night. Silas didn't come for ghost tales. He came because he believed. The first house appeared just past a crumbling stone marker sunk halfway into moss. No words, just a crude carving of a mouth open wide in song. A woman stepped out from the porch, wiping her hands on a tattered apron. Her eyes were sharp, crow dog. "You Reverend Corbin?" she asked without greeting. "I am. You can stable your mule behind the chapel. Stay as long as you like, but there's no call for preaching here." Silas touched the brim of his hat. "Ma'am, I only go where the Lord leads." She didn't respond, only turned and walked back inside. The chapel was a squat wooden thing, more barn than church, though a faded cross still clung to the steeple like a forgotten memory. Silas tied his mule and stepped inside. Dust motes floated in the stale air, rows of pews sat half-rotted, and the altar bore no Bible, only a cracked bowl of river stones and a bundle of dried grass twisted like braided hair. He left his bag there and made his way into the village. The people watched but did not speak. Children played in the dirt with silent mouths. One boy, no older than 7, had smeared ash across his lips like war paint. "Little one," Silas said gently, "where's your folks?" The boy stared, then pointed toward a cluster of cabins farther up the ridge. That night the singing began. Silas sat bolt upright in his cot at the chapel. It wasn't loud, no more than a murmuring hum, carried like fog on the wind. He stepped outside, heart hammering. The sound drifted from every home. High, clear voices, children, singing in unison, each word perfectly matched, though the language was no tongue Silas knew. He followed it, house to house, none with a lit lantern, none with movement, only the song, floating like smoke from every cracked window. He knocked on the door of a large house near the well. A man answered, hair wild with sleep, shirt unlaced at the collar. "Why do your children sing?" Silas demanded. The man looked past him. "They're just dreamin', preacher. Ain't no harm in it." "It's not natural. You a doctor, then? Or maybe you come here with a cure for dreamin'." Silas's voice hardened. "Dreams don't sing in harmony, and they don't speak in dead tongues." The man's jaw twitched. "You'd best keep to the chapel." He shut the door. The next day, Silas found the schoolhouse had long been abandoned. Ivy swallowed half its frame, and inside, the slate boards bore faint scratches, circular marks, spirals, strange runes etched deep into the stone. He took one of the slates and brought it to the chapel, scrubbed it clean, set it before him like scripture. Then, from his satchel, he drew a thin leather-bound journal, not a Bible, something older. He opened it carefully, turning past brittle pages until he found the one he needed. The mark was there too, almost the same. A symbol of the hollow god, a forgotten deity once whispered about by the early settlers. Not a devil, not quite a god, something that fed on sound, not flesh, something that slept beneath the trees and dreamed in song. Silas looked up. The chapel seemed darker, closer. That night he stayed awake. The song began again, but this time it shifted, louder, closer. He crept to the window. The children were outside, all of them. Barefoot in the frost, standing in lines, eyes closed, mouths moving in perfect synchronicity. The same song, always the same. One child stood at the front, a girl older than the rest, with a red ribbon around her neck. Her voice led the others. Her feet hovered an inch above the ground. Silas stumbled back, knocking over a pew. The song stopped. The children opened their eyes. Silas slammed the door and bolted it. In the morning, he found the ribbon girl sitting on the chapel steps. She didn't look at him as he approached, just held her hands out. "You want something?" he asked. She opened her palms. Inside, a small wooden carving of an open mouth and a lock of his own hair. He stumbled back. "Where did you get that?" "You dropped it." Her voice was flat. "They said you were dreaming too loud." Silas snatched the carving. "Who is they?" She pointed to the woods. "The ones who taught us the song." He followed her gaze. Deep in the tree line, something shimmered. A shape, almost human, but taller, thinner, and wrapped in branches like a second skin. Then it vanished. He turned back to the girl. She was gone. That night, Silas rang the chapel bell. The villagers gathered slowly, reluctantly. No children, only adults, faces blank as cold stone. "You all know," he said, "what sleeps in these woods?" Murmurs. He held up the journal. "The hollow god, the listener, it's old as the hills, and you've been feeding it." The woman from the first house stepped forward. "We ain't fed it. Our children did. You allowed it." She looked at him, tired and hollow-eyed. "What else were we to do? When the song started, we tried to stop them, tied their mouths, locked their doors. They still sang, even when they bled." Silas swallowed. The man from the well house spat at his feet. "You think you're the first to try and fix this? The forest don't take kindly to dissonance." The ribbon girl's voice echoed from the chapel. "She started early," someone whispered. Silas ran back inside. The girl stood by the altar, her mouth wide, voice piercing. The hymn poured out, louder, layered, and from the woods, a tremor. The trees bent. Something massive moved beneath the earth. He stepped forward. "Stop singing!" She opened her eyes. "It's listening." With a scream, Silas struck the bowl of stones from the altar. The song halted. For one moment, silence. Then a crack, like the earth yawning. The chapel split down the center. From the floor rose a mouth, and no face, no head, just a vast gaping maw ringed in bark and bone, lips trembling as if to sing. The girl smiled. "It's hungry now." They found Silas days later, deep in the forest, singing to the wind, alone, eyes pale, voice never ceasing. The villagers buried the chapel. They said the girl was never seen again. But some nights, when the wind blows just right and the trees hum low, the children of Whitlock Hollow still sing in perfect harmony. And the forest listens, always. Was that scary enough? Let us know in the comments if it got under your skin. Was it what you expected, or did it leave you breathless? Now, let's dive into the next. Brace yourself. Room 313. The first thing that hit him was the smell. Even before the cracked lobby doors groaned shut behind him, the stench seeped into his nostrils. Mildew, rotting wood, and something else. Something coppery, like old coins soaked in water. Nathan Keller hesitated just inside the entrance of the Marlowe Hotel. His boots stuck slightly to the warped linoleum floor, and the light from the overcast sky filtered weakly through smeared windows, casting everything in a sickly gray. He took a slow breath, shoulders rising beneath his cheap overcoat, then stepped further inside. His voice recorder clicked on with a hollow beep. March 2nd. Arrived at the Marlowe. No caretaker in sight, just like the tip said. A pause. Going in. The Marlowe Hotel had been a stain on the edge of East Callahan since the steel mills shut down. 17 stories of decay, mostly boarded up now, except for the brave squatters and the occasional ghost hunter who thought urban rot made for good Instagram. Nathan wasn't here for clicks. He was here for room 313, a room that hadn't been opened in nearly 50 years. The elevator was out of the question. Even if it worked, he wasn't keen on being buried in a steel box when the cables finally gave. So he took the stairs, slow and steady, breathing shallowly through his scarf. The higher he went, the colder it got. At the third-floor landing, his flashlight flickered. He stopped, waited. Nothing. Just the wind outside, moaning faintly through shattered panes somewhere above. Then, click. The light steadied. Nathan exhaled through his nose and pushed open the hallway door. The third floor was worse than the lobby. Wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing cracked plaster beneath. Light fixtures dangled like nooses. He walked past hollowed-out rooms, doors hanging crookedly on their hinges. The numbers were faded, but he counted them off until he stopped before the one he'd come for. The numbers, rusted but intact, sat on the door like a sneer. Nathan set down his backpack, fished out the old brass key he'd bought off a guy who swore he'd found it in a pawn shop near the river. He hesitated before sliding it into the lock. Just a room, he muttered. Just a room with a story. The lock turned with surprising ease. The door creaked open, and Nathan Keller stepped into the past. Room 313 was untouched. No graffiti, no signs of intrusion. The air was cold, but not stale. It held a strange stillness, as though time itself hadn't moved. A floral bedspread lay neatly on the double bed. Curtains hung pristine. Even the rotary phone on the side table looked clean. His breath fogged in front of him, though his jacket was thick. He walked further in, sweeping the light slowly. There was a mirror across from the bed. Nathan flinched. For a second, he thought, no, just a trick of light. But his reflection was gone. He stared at the mirror. No reflection. He waved a hand. Nothing. That's not right, he whispered. Then the room changed. A voice, software muffled. Nathan. He spun around. Nobody there, but the door was shut, and he hadn't touched it. He rushed to it, grabbed the handle, locked. He rattled it, slammed his palm against the wood. Hey, come on! But silence answered. Then, the mirror. He turned slowly. There was a reflection now, but it wasn't his. A woman stood in the mirror, pale, eyes wide with fear. Her mouth moved silently, her hands pressed against the glass as though trying to get out. Nathan stumbled back, and the lights went out. When they came back on, the room looked older, dusty, faded. The bedspread was torn. The curtains hung in shreds. The mirror was cracked. Nathan stood in the middle of the room, breathing hard. Get a grip, he muttered. Focus. He yanked the voice recorder from his pocket and clicked it on again. Room 313 is different. There's something here. Possibly a staging setup, mirrors and lighting effects, but static. He stopped. The recorder hissed softly. Then a voice, his voice, whispered back through it. You were here before. Don't you remember? He dropped it. Nathan backed against the wall. His thoughts were spinning. This wasn't just decay. This was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. Like a wound in the air around him. He looked to the mirror again. The woman was there. But now, she was closer. So close, her face pressed against the glass, mouth open in a silent scream. She raised her hand, pointed behind him. Nathan turned. There was a man standing in the corner of the room, dressed in 1970s slacks and suspenders, face partially in shadow. He wasn't breathing. Who are you? Nathan choked out. The man took one step forward and another. Then the room flickered. Everything snapped back. The furniture looked new again, the mirror whole, the lights warm. Nathan looked around wildly. "What the hell?" There was a knock at the door, a sharp, deliberate knock, knock, knock. He moved to it slowly. His hand paused on the knob. "Hello?" No response. He opened the door, a hallway, but not the one he came from. This one was clean, literature wallpaper neat, and footsteps, someone running down the hall. He followed. At the end, a woman vanished around a corner. He chased after her, calling out, "Wait, who are you? What is this place?" But when he turned the corner, room 313 again, door wide open, he looked back. Nothing, no hallway, just a blank wall behind him. He stepped inside again, and the door shut behind him again. He screamed and pounded at it, but it held firm. When he turned around this time, the mirror didn't reflect anything. Not him, not the room, just black. He stepped closer, closer, and the glass rippled. It pulled him in. Nathan gasped and opened his eyes. He was lying in bed, in room 313, the floral bedspread beneath him, sunlight streaming through the curtains. Was it morning? He sat up. His coat was gone. So was his recorder. On the table beside the bed was a newspaper, March 3rd, 1972. He blinked, read it again. His heart hammered. No, no, no. A knock at the door. He rose slowly, opened it. A man stood there, somewhat confused, holding a flashlight, recording device in hand. "You the caretaker?" the man asked. Nathan stared. The man's voice recorder clicked on. "March 2nd, the man said. Arrived at the Marlowe." The loop began again, and behind the mirror, the woman watched with hollow eyes. They always come back to room 313 because it never really lets them leave. The folder's closed for now, but some things don't stay buried, and stories like this never really end. If you're still with me, good. That means it didn't get you. Until the next one, until the next case. This was folder 404.